Oh, useful lesson. It's kind of funny how serious we can be about ourselves. We live on a tiny planet spinning around just one regular star among billions in the huge universe. Yet we think we're in control. We convince ourselves we shape our own lives, that we're the boss of our future. But what if that whole idea is just a clever trick our brains play on us? Most people in Western cultures have grown up with the belief that staying in control is super important. We get judged by how neatly we plan our days, how organized our schedules are, and how perfectly we tick things off our checklists. We organize time, split up experiences, and put labels on everything. We think this gives us power. But if you really look at your own life, has being in control ever truly worked out? Or is life just happening while you're busy arranging every detail? Once you really consider it, having full control starts to feel impossible. It's kind of like drawing a picture of water. The moment you finish, the water has already changed. Life doesn't stay still for us to mold. It's always moving, always changing. Control is just a tale we tell ourselves so we feel safe in a world that's actually wild and uncertain. It's a bit like telling kids that no monsters live under the bed. But what if the greatest part of life actually starts when we stop telling ourselves we're in charge? Think about it. True freedom might not be about ruling life, but about moving along with it, like dancing instead of marching. In an odd twist, wanting control so badly is exactly what causes us to worry. Isn't it strange? The thing we believe will save us from trouble is what gives us the most stress. The squeeze. Just imagine all the energy you use every day, making sure things go as planned. You're always watching, always planning, and stressing if anything falls out of line. It gets exhausting. And in the end, does it truly guarantee that things will end up how you want them? Our thoughts are constantly leaping ahead, making up stories about the future that haven't happened, and then we scramble to shape those stories just right. If I can get everything to go according to my plan, then I'll finally be happy. But happiness always feels just out of reach. One more chore, one more thing to control. The Buddha had a deep insight about why we suffer. He said pain comes from hanging on too tightly, from holding on to our own ideas of how things should go. The harder we grip, the more it hurts. It's like trying to stop a rushing river with only your hands. The water still pushes through, everything keeps shifting, and you just end up tired. All that time, while you're fighting the river, you're missing out on the fun of swimming in it. What if, instead, you chose to let go? What if you stopped trying to bend the world to your wishes and simply let life carry you? This isn't about giving up or quitting. It's more about joining life with awareness and alert and gentle surrender, where you still participate, but you don't force things. Here's a strange truth: being certain all the time, chasing absolute control, can actually take the excitement out of living. Life is at its best in those moments when you don't know what's next, in the spaces where you stop trying to control every detail. There's an example I find helpful. Picture life as a huge river, always moving, always changing. Now, there are two kinds of swimmers. The first swimmer fights the current, thrashing around, determined to move upstream. With pure strength, he pushes against the flow, thinking he can outmuscle the river. What happens to him? He ends up tired, maybe gets a little further ahead for a while, but eventually, he's so worn out he struggles just to keep his head above water. The second swimmer has learned how to let go. She pays attention to the water, feels how it moves, and swims with the current. She might steer herself around rocks, but she never battles against the water's natural direction. What does she get? She travels further with much less effort and enjoys the trip instead of losing a fight with nature. This is really what happens with control. When we refuse to let go, we're battling the basic truth that everything changes and flows. The world isn't a computer we can program, it's more like a wild living dance, full of endless twists and turns. And we're part of this dance, not stuck outside of it. Think about the times in your life when you felt totally worn out. Weren't those the moments where you tried the hardest to force your plans, to make everything fit your idea of how it should be? And on the other hand, when did you feel relaxed and peaceful? Probably when you stop pushing and just let things happen for a while. Wise teachers from old China had a name for this: Wu Wei, unknowing. This doesn't mean you sit around and do nothing. Instead, it's about effortless action, working with life's flow, not against it. The swimmer who understands Wu Wei isn't struggling to conquer the river, she's blending with it. Now, here's something to wonder about. What would change if you stopped trying to be the boss of everything all the time? If you quit being the so called captain of the universe, what would really happen? Most people are afraid to find out. They imagine disaster. If I let go, everything will fall apart. But is that actually true? Or is it another story we've just picked up over time? Usually, when you stop trying to manage every detail, nothing terrible happens. The world doesn't crash. Your life doesn't instantly become a mess. Actually, you might notice something amazing. There's already a kind of order and wisdom shaping events, even without your constant worrying. Think about your heartbeat. You don't need to tell your heart when to beat or remind your lungs to breathe. Your body knows what it's doing, even if you never think about it. Maybe, just maybe, there's a similar kind of intelligence guiding the bigger picture of life. When you finally loosen your grip, you might notice the path ahead is often better than anything you could have designed. You start feeling, well, let's call it cosmic choreography, a hidden harmony that was there the whole time, just underneath your efforts to control everything. And something else changes too. You begin to pay more attention to the present. Notice how control is always focused on what might happen later. It's about making sure the future looks a certain way. But when you let go, suddenly the current moment becomes amazingly clear and real. It's like the universe has been quietly waiting for you to stop fighting so it can show you something special. What the universe wants to show is often much more exciting and alive than anything you tried to plan. But there's a funny twist here, a cosmic joke almost. The more you try to tighten your grip on life, the more messy and out of control things seem. But when you relax and let go, you realize there's a pattern and rhythm, a gentle order underneath it all. Most people never see this, stuck trying to make everything predictable. But life will always toss a surprise your way just when you think you've got it all figured out. The truth is, what looks like chaos and what appears as order, these aren't total opposites. They work together, like partners in a dance. Think about jazz music for a second. If you listen to a group of musicians playing jazz, it might sound wild and random at first. But if you pay close attention, you'll notice there's actually a hidden order in all that noise. The players are listening to each other, reacting in the moment, and making patterns that couldn't be planned ahead of time. Life works a lot like that jazz session. It's not a song with every note written out. It's more like a jam, where you join in and respond to whatever comes up, instead of trying to control every beat. The best musicians don't force the music to go their way. They learn to react quickly and play along with whatever notes pop up. And here's the real twist: the things we want most, like happiness, meaning, friendship, and love, usually show up when we stop trying to force them. They come as a result of letting go, not from holding on tighter. Have you ever watched a tree during a strong wind? It's pretty amazing. The stiff, hard branches snap and break, but the soft, bendy ones just move with the wind and stay standing. The tree doesn't fight the wind, it moves with it. Nature has always known this secret, even though people have a hard time learning it. A tree doesn't try to control the weather or fight the changing seasons. It doesn't struggle against what's happening. Instead, it adjusts and lets go. When autumn comes, the tree doesn't hold onto its leaves out of fear. It lets them fall, knowing that this is part of growing. And when spring arrives, new leaves grow back, often even brighter than before. The tree shows us a smart way to live, not giving up, but accepting what is and trusting that things will work out. People with our big brains often think we know better than nature. We believe we have to control everything instead of letting things happen. We think we should fight instead of adapt. But when we do this, we become like the stiff branch, easily broken when life changes suddenly. What if you lived more like a tree? You could stay true to who you are, but be flexible in how you act as the world changes. You'd know when to hold on and when to let go. The tree doesn't need a book to tell it when to drop its leaves. It doesn't need therapy to get over the fear of change. It just listens to the rhythms of life and responds. Maybe that wisdom isn't lost to us. Maybe we've just forgotten it because we're so busy trying to control everything. Let's think about something important. How many of your plans have actually worked out exactly as you wanted? If you're honest, probably not many. Yet here you are, still living, still breathing, still experiencing life. Our plans often fail because we don't really understand how things work. We think we can guess the future, that we can figure out every possible outcome, but life is way too complicated for anyone to predict. It's like trying to guess the exact shape of every wave in the ocean. There are just too many things that affect it. But here's the cool part. When our plans don't work, we often end up somewhere much more interesting than we expected. Think about the most important things in your life. Did you plan every detail, or did some of them happen by surprise when your plans fell apart? That friendship that changed you, did you plan it, or did it just happen? That idea that made everything different, did it come when you were trying hard, or did it show up when you relaxed? That chance that opened new doors, was it carefully arranged, or did it come out of nowhere? When plans fail, we are forced to deal with what's really happening, not just what we wish would happen. And it's in those moments, when we're face to face with reality, that the best and most meaningful experiences often show up. Maybe the universe has bigger plans for you than you have for yourself. Maybe your plans keep failing because they're too small, too limited by what you already know. What if the failure of your plans isn't a disaster, but an invitation to something much greater than you could imagine? Here's a strange idea. What if true skill doesn't come from more control, but from learning to let go? What if you actually gain the most when you stop grabbing so tightly? Think about a surfer riding a huge wave. Does she control the ocean? Of course not. That would be silly. What she controls is how she reacts to the water. She's learned to move with whatever the wave does. Her skill comes from working with the wave, not fighting it. To look at great artists, they often say their best work comes through them, not from them. It's like they step aside and let something bigger take over. The painter becomes the brush, the musician becomes the instrument, the dancer becomes the dance. This is what Zen teachers talk about with ideas like no mind, or beginner's mind, a relaxed, alert state where you stop planning and just respond to life as it happens. But this isn't just true for surfing or art, it's true in relationships too. Have you noticed that the more you try to control someone, the more they pull away? But when you let them be themselves, you often grow closer. The same thing happens with yourself. The more you try to control your own thoughts and feelings, forcing yourself to think or feel a certain way, the more you struggle inside. But when you treat yourself with gentle attention, like you would a good friend, something amazing happens. You don't lose control, you become more whole. This is the big surprise. By letting go of control, you don't fall into chaos. You rise into a new kind of order, one that includes surprises and makes room for everything life brings. Now we come to the biggest letting go of all, the one that waits for everyone, the one no amount of control can stop. That's death. Our fear of dying is behind a lot of our need to control. We build all kinds of things, buildings, rules, habits, trying to make something last forever in a world where everything changes and eventually ends. The mind that wants to control everything tries to ignore death. It thinks, if I just control things well enough, maybe I can avoid even this final letting go. So we don't talk about death. We hide it away, use softer words, pretend it's not part of life. But what happens when we face the truth that everything ends? Something amazing can happen. When we accept that everything, our stuff, our bodies, our relationships, even our sense of self, will eventually go away. We start to relax. The need to control fades. If everything is going to pass, what's the point of holding on so tightly? If every wave returns to the ocean, why wear yourself out, trying to keep it separate? Thinking about death isn't depressing. It can actually set you free. It helps you see what really matters. The things you worry about, will they matter when your life is ending? The control you fought for? Can you take it with you? When we make friends with the truth that we'll have to let go someday, each moment becomes more special because it won't last. We don't have to grab it or make it stay. We can just enjoy it, let it be, and then let it go, making space for the next moment. Death is the ultimate teacher of letting go, but we don't have to wait until the end to learn from it. We can practice letting go every day, in small ways and big ones, getting ready not just for our last breath, but for a more alive and present way of living right now. So, what does all this mean for how we should live? If control is just an illusion, if our plans often don't work out, and if everything is always changing, what should we do? Maybe the answer is to change how we see ourselves. Instead of thinking of yourself as a rock that has to stand firm against the flow of life, what if you saw yourself as water? Water doesn't fight, it adapts. Pour it into a square glass, and it becomes square. Pour it into a round bowl, and it becomes round. Hit it, and it splits for a moment, then comes back together. Freeze it, and it turns solid. Heat it, and it becomes steam. But through all these changes, water stays true to itself. This flexibility doesn't mean water is weak. In fact, water can cut through stone and shape mountains, not by force, but by always finding the easiest path and working with what's there. What would it be like to live like water? It would mean staying true to who you are, but changing easily with whatever comes your way. It would mean facing life with gentle strength, not stiff resistance. It would mean knowing that your real power comes from how you move with life, not from trying to control everything around you. Freedom isn't about making life fit your wishes. Real freedom is being open and ready for whatever life brings, even if it's not what you expected. The rock, which seems so strong, is actually stuck in one shape. Water, always changing, is truly free. And maybe this is the biggest surprise about letting go. When you finally stop trying so hard to control life, you don't end up with less, you end up with much more. You trade the small, limited world of what you think you want for the huge, exciting world of what life actually gives you. What if, just for today, you tried loosening your grip a little? What if you let yourself flow like water instead of standing stiff like a rock? What if you trusted, even a little, that the universe might have something better planned for you than anything you could come up with? Maybe in letting go, you'll find what wise teachers and mystics have been talking about for ages. That the real art of living isn't about controlling everything, but about joining the beautiful dance of letting go. And so we come back to where we started, with those tight fists trying to hold on to water, and the simple truth that the harder you squeeze, the less you keep. Letting go isn't something you do once and forget. It's a practice, a way of meeting each moment as it comes. Sometimes you'll remember and feel the freedom of moving with life. Other times you'll forget and find yourself struggling to control what can't be controlled. But even this back and forth is part of the dance. Even forgetting and remembering is part of the flow. And maybe that's the final letting go, releasing even the need to be perfect at letting go. If these words have touched something inside you, maybe it's not anything new, but just a reminder of what you've always known deep down, beneath all the noise of trying to control life. Share these thoughts if you feel like it, but remember, no one can let go for you. That special release, that surrender to the flow of life, is something only you can discover, moment by moment, breath by breath, in your own experience. After all, the ocean doesn't need anyone to teach it how to make waves. So after everything we've talked about, what's the takeaway? Life isn't something you can control like a machine. It's more like a river, a song, or a dance. Always moving, always changing. The more you try to hold on tight, the more you miss out on the real adventure. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means trusting that you can handle whatever comes, even if it's not what you expected. It means being open to surprises, to new ideas, and to the possibility that life might have something better in store for you than you ever imagined. If you're willing to try, just for today, Loosen your grip a little. See what happens when you let yourself go with the flow, instead of fighting against it. Notice how much lighter you feel, how much more you notice, and how much more alive you become. And if this message spoke to you, share it with someone who might need to hear it. Leave a comment below about a time when letting go led to something good in your life. If you want more videos like this, hit subscribe and join the conversation. Remember, the art of living isn't about controlling every moment. It's about learning to dance with life, one step at a time.